Yo, what's good YouTube, man? It's Gary with another Fantasy TV back action of this video. Like the content in this video, go and smash that like button. The content in this channel, go and subscribe, man. Look, so we're gonna talk about the Ravens and the Bengals, do a game preview of that, right? But first I want to talk about the trade deadline that just passed, right? You guys will see this video tomorrow, so you know it just passed yesterday, 4 p.m., right? All right, so the Ravens, if we talk about the totality of the trade deadline, you end up with Deontay Johnson and you end up with Trey White, cornerback from the Los Angeles Rams, right? Now, how do I feel about this as a whole, right? The Ravens have very clear and obvious needs that they needed to solve or at least help out through the trade deadline. And I don't think they really attacked that, right? Interior defensive line with Brent Urban being out with the neck injury, Michael Pierce going to IR, Travis Jones is banged up, Broderick Washington is just coming back, right? You're very thin at that spot. So interior defensive line would have been a major help, right? Now, that was word that the Ravens were in on Calais Campbell all afternoon or all day, I should say. Now, I don't want to hear anybody say this because I already know this. It takes two to tango. That's obvious, right? Somebody has to be willing to make a trade with the Ravens for a trade to happen, all right? Apparently, the Dolphins had a really high price for Calais Campbell, and the Ravens weren't willing to meet that, right? But at the end of the day, the Ravens did nothing to help their defensive line on the interior. All right, also, on the edge, right? The Ravens didn't bring anybody on the edge, okay? The Ravens pass rush right now, I believe, has the lowest win rate in the NFL. It's not good, especially the last couple of weeks, right? When the Ravens started the season really well. Owe, Kyle Van Noy, they were getting pressure off the edge. That hasn't been happening the last couple of weeks, right? I would say the last month or so, it's been pretty stagnant, not very good, all right? So the Ravens don't get any help off the edge, right? A guy that they were supposedly in on was Azeez Al-Jilari, right? Or Ojulari, I should say. Same thing, right? The Giants' asking price was really high. Giants think they still have a competent season going, so I saw something that said they wanted a second-round pick. Now, that wasn't going to happen, but if they were willing to move it down to a fourth or fifth, which I think they were willing to do later on in the day, the Ravens could have made that move, right? Obviously, we saw Darius Smith go to the Lions, right? The Browns probably weren't going to trade inside the division, okay? But, you know, there was Jadeveon Clowney, right, who I can't imagine the Panthers are kind of in fire sale mode. I mean, I can't imagine Jadeveon Clowney cost more than a fifth or sixth round pick. I wouldn't have minded that trade at all, right? So I feel like there were moves out there for the Ravens to be made, and they kind of just stood pat with this defensive line. No brainer for me, no brainer. Okay, and then lastly, they bring in Trey White. Okay, Trey White has been either hurt or bad the last 2 seasons, right? We gotta be honest about it, right? He's a former elite cornerback. I believe he's been all pro in his career. I know he's been a multiple-time Pro Bowler. So he was a really good player in the past, right? For Buffalo, right? As the main part of his career, right? Just recently went to the Rams this year. You know, there may be talks, maybe he came up from the injury too early, so that's why he wasn't playing as well for the Rams and this and that. He's been a healthy scratch, I believe, the last month of the season. So the last 4 games, he's been pretty much a healthy scratch for the Rams, right? And the Rams are a team that's, you know, super deep at cornerback, right? And like they got a bunch of guys in there, and you know, hey, look, you know, we can't play everybody. Like, no, the Rams aren't that deep at cornerback. They couldn't play Trey White. So to me, that says a lot. All right, now I don't get too up in arms about the Trey White thing because it was pretty much a free selection, right? You know, the Ravens get him for a 7th round pick, no harm, no foul. And honestly, he's not a slot cornerback, so people are saying, well, yeah, he's just going to replace Arthur Marlette. No, he's not. He's not a slot. He's an outside quarterback, right? So what he's replacing is we won't see Jalen Armour-Davis again, right? That's just what I assume, okay? With Brandon Stevens, Nate Wiggins, Marlon Humphrey as your outside guys, right? Marlon can obviously pump into the slot sometimes. If those guys were to ever go down, if those guys need a breather during the game, that's when you see Trey White, all right? So I guess the Ravens felt as though they need a little bit more depth at the outside corner, which I can understand, right? We just saw that Marlon Humphrey and Nate Wiggins didn't play. We saw how that game went, right, versus the Browns, right? So I can understand why they felt that way. But overall, I feel like the Ravens missed a golden opportunity at the trade deadline to really improve this team, especially along the front four of that pass rush, right? So we'll go with the team that we have now. and we'll keep rolling on, man. So, and that's that. All right. So listen, Ravens versus Bengals game preview. Okay. I'm not going to do the whole entire thing how we usually do, talk about all the stats, right? Because it's only been a month since the Ravens played the Bengals, right? But I will say this, right? Bengals, well, let's do the injury report, right? Lamar Jackson did not practice today. He practiced yesterday, but John Harbaugh said Lamar Jackson is 100% playing on Thursday. They're seeing like they're now starting to give Lamar Jackson kind of veteran rest days during the week. I'm cool with it, right? No issues for me, right? Isaiah Likely is back-to-back DMP, so I doubt Isaiah Likely is going to play. Brent Urban is still out, and that's really the main thing I see, right? Also, the Ravens cut running back Chris Collier. Why is that important? That could be opening up a spot for Keaton Mitchell to come on the active roster and actually make his season debut versus the Bengals, right? Which is something that we've been talking about for a couple weeks. We'd love to see Keaton Mitchell get out there and play. We'll see what happens with that, right? All right. So that's really the main thing from the Ravens side. From the Bengals side, offensive tackle Orlando Brown Jr. He just returned back to practice in a limited capacity. So we'll see how he goes. I think he's trending towards playing. One of their star wide receivers, T. Higgins, back-to-back DMPs, right? So, we don't know for sure, but I would doubt that he's going to play this week, right? So that's big news for the Ravens. The Bengals still got talented guys. Yoshavach is talented. Jermaine Burton, if he can get his head on straight, is talented. So they still have receiving options, right? Mike Gesicki just coming off a big week after getting a couple touchdowns last week. So they're coming off a good performance, right? Now, speaking of good performance, right? The last two games for the Bengals, they're 2-1, 21-14 win versus the Giants on I believe that was Sunday Night Football. 37-17 loss versus the Eagles, and then a 41-24 win versus the Raiders. Joe Burrow, I believe, passes for 5 touchdowns. Really good offensive showing from them. I think Joe Burrow is having a really, really good season, especially throwing the ball down the field, right? So, Ravens got to watch out for that. All right. So, right, we just want to hop right into the keys to the game, right? So, the keys to the game, we're going to start with the Ravens on offense, all right? You got to run the score up, all right? If there's one thing that this Ravens trade deadline has showed me, right, has shown us as fans, is that the Ravens are leaning in on this offense being able to outscore their opponents, right? If you want to have an analogy, this is what I think of when I talk about this Ravens offense, right? Or this Ravens team now. When I was growing up, one of my favorite quarterbacks to watch was Peyton Manning, right? And the Peyton Manning and those Colts teams, they were almost unstoppable on offense. And what they would do is they would build the lead up so their pass rushers can get after you, Robert Mathis, the White Freeney, and so they can pin their ears back because the other team got to throw the football. Now, for the Ravens, we don't have those guys, right? Ravens haven't been a great passing defense, but the point still remains the same. The Ravens want to be able to score a lot of points and hopefully put their defense in an advantageous position to get stops to make the other team one-dimensional, right? If you look at the Broncos game, the Broncos missed a couple of fourth downs. Next thing you know, before you know it, it's 31-10, right? The game's over with at that point, essentially, right? As long as the Ravens don't blow it, right? The Ravens score a quick touchdown before half, score right again after halftime. Like I said, 31-10, game's over with. So run the score up, okay? That's what's going to be the important thing, right? The front office has put the pressure on this offense to say, hey, look, you guys are a historical unit so far this year. Carry us to victory. That strategy is very, very bold. Sometimes it cannot work. We know the old adage, defense wins championships. The Ravens are going to need a better defense or have the defense step up some more to actually contribute. But for right now, that's how it's rolling, okay? All right. And that the second part kind of rolls into the same thing. Dominate early, right? If you could jump out on the Bengals early on in the game, get up, 14-3, 21-3, something like that. And listen, the Bengals have a very, very nice, efficient passing attack. But if you know that they have to throw the ball, it makes your job easier, right? Not saying that, just because you know they're going to throw the ball, that means the Ravens are going to stop them. Of course not. You still have to do your job as a defense, but it makes your job easier, right? So for the Ravens offense, the pressure was on you, right? Lamar Jackson is playing the best football of his career. Feel like we say that every single season, but it's the truth, right? He's playing the best football of his career. And the pressure is on this Ravens offense to continue to produce at a high level, right? If we've been showing anything at the trade deadline, is the fact that we need this Ravens offense to produce at a high level, okay? So that's the keys to the game for the offense. All right, for the defense. Now, for the defense side of the ball, we've been showing one thing, right? With Zach Orr and DPs, I think that we are going to bend but don't break, right? This Ravens defense is going to be, we're going to limit everything that happens, right? We're going to hold the other team to field goals instead of touchdowns, and we're going to have our offense score the ball, right? So for this game, right, that means keep everything in front of you, rally and tackle to the football, right? If we saw the first time we played the Bengals, what happened? Jamar Chase took a screen pass, a little swing pass outside, took it to the house. That can't happen, right? Then the second part, no explosives, right? Once again, Jamar Chase, right? Big post route before halftime, takes the top off the defense, 45 yard touchdown pass. Can't happen. No explosives, right? Listen, you have a good offense, you have a great offense on the other side of football. But at the end of the day, as a defense, you want to make the offense grind to these points, all right? Make it a long, boring kind of drive because eventually you would hope that they make a mistake, right? So for the Ravens, that's what's going to come down to, right? I believe that their style of defense now is bend but don't break, right? We aren't an attacking defense. We are a defense that I believe is going to confuse the quarterback a whole bunch. How we saw Mac McDonald simulators here and there. The Ravens want to line up and just keep everything in front, right? No explosive plays down the field. If the offense is going to get the ball down the field, you're going to have to make them work for it. Then when you get into the red zone, that's when you lock up, right? And you hold them to 3 points. All right. Or maybe you can even force some turnovers down there if they get sloppy with the ball. Okay. But as far as what we saw last year for this Ravens defense, that's a thing of the past, right? We're 10 weeks into the year. Okay. That idea of what we had with the Ravens were supposed to be, or what we thought they could continue to be under Zach Orr, it hasn't been that, right? So we're not going to continue to hope and pray for that. I think the Ravens are going to move into a position of bend but don't break, right? So that's just what it is when it comes to the defensive side of the ball, right? Do I want my defense to necessarily be that? Not really, okay? But that's just kind of what it is, all right? I mean, to be completely honest. All right, so last but not least, man, X factors, right? I think the X factors are the defensive coordinator, and I'm gonna call him co-defensive coordinator. So Zach Orr and Dean Pease, right? And for me, the biggest thing is I want to see them help the defensive line. All right, the Ravens defensive line did not get any help when it comes to the trade deadline. No new additions, right? I saw somebody put on Twitter that Yannick Ngakoue, that was our D-line help pickup when we picked him up a couple weeks ago, right? We didn't know it then, but we know it now, right? That was the guy that we got for D-line help, okay? So when I say help the D-line, this is what I mean. The Ravens need to run more twists, more stunts, more games up front. Just lining up and saying, we are going to beat you one-on-one is not working. It's not working, right? You need to be able to run twisted stunts to get guys like Justin Madubuike free. Man, get Madubuike off of some of these double teams, right? Get them one-on-one with a tackle, one-on-one with a guard, one-on-one with a center. Help them out, right? Same with Owe, right? You get somebody to hit the tackle, always swings around inside. Now he's one-on-one with a guard. He has the physical and athletic size matchup over that guard. Hopefully he can win, right? So just saying that, hey, listen, we're going to line up 4 or 5, send them. Hey, you guys win your one-on-ones. This D-line is not built to do that. All right. So when it comes to these obvious passing situations, I want to see Zach Orr and Dean Pease help their defensive line out. Do something up front that's going to confuse the offensive line, right? We can't just line up and play. All right. So for me, that's the X factor for this game, right? Can you get to Joe Burrow? Can you do some things in the pot and up front that's going to make him uncomfortable in the pocket, right? Joe Burrow is a mobile quarterback, more mobile than people probably give him credit for, right? So can you be able to stop his movement, get him on the ground? All right, so that's going to be a major key for this game, and that's how the Ravens can win this game by making Joe Burrow uncomfortable in the passing game, right? The Bengals have done better in the last couple of weeks of, having a better run game. Chase Brown is really kind of coming to his own. They just traded for Khalil Herbert, who's a decent running back from the Chicago Bears, right? But at the end of the day, this team is going to fall on the right arm of Joe Burrow, right? So what can you do up front to disrupt him in this pass attack? That's what it's going to come down to. All right, so that's the Ravens game preview. That's my thoughts about the Ravens trade deadline. Obviously, give me your thoughts about both in the comments. You know, reply to our comments. But it's Gabriel, just on Fan TV. I'm out.